Welcome back. Open fire? Is that what I said? Right at the end of the first segment of tonight's podcast? Well, it's exactly what I meant. When this country, is in the process of being dismembered or destroyed by a bunch of people who are out of their fucking minds, they're stoned on their bloody, filthy religion, and they're drunk on the power of the psychopath Donald Jesus Christ God Trump. And they've decided to lock and load and ride around the countryside in their fucking pickup trucks with their loaded guns, no telling who they might hurt. Yeah, then it's time to order them to stop. What about the Second Amendment, Mike? Fuck that. In these kinds of conditions, are you kidding me? Order the truck stopped and the beer belly bastards to stand out, put their weapons on the deck, put their hands on the hood of the car, the truck, and submit to a complete search. And if they're found with, oh, screw that. Just just put them in a stockade someplace. I'm losing my mind. I really am. See, the Constitution, in so many instances, protects these people who want to destroy the Constitution. It's irony of the highest, most disgusting way to think of the term ironic. That the Constitution they are hell-bent on destroying is the very documents that are protecting them as they seek to destroy the Constitution. So at what point, and I ask this question honestly, at what point do normal people say, okay, listen, this shit's got to stop. We've tried to talk you down from the ledge where you want to jump off and take the country with you. So here's what we're going to do. Any of you son of a bitches who are armed with weapons that could be considered weapons of war, and we'll make that determination, we are going to take your weapons and we're going to put you in a stockade someplace till you cool down. Now, I know what that sounds like, but extreme situations, such as the ones we're dealing with right now, may call for extreme measures to stop this shit. I don't know how else to put it. I really don't. Back to these reports of these beer-gutted, half-witted morons trying to interfere with relief and rescue efforts put together by the federal government in the areas that were devastated by Hurricane Helene. I would think, before I call out the United States Army, I would think that the people in these towns would stop a pickup truck full of these yahoos and take care of business themselves. Kind of in the manner of, what the fuck are you guys doing? FEMA's here to help us. Get out of our town before we fucking string you up. A person familiar with FEMA operations, as I mentioned right at the beginning of the commercial break, said that FEMA people are working cautiously and the teams were operating at fixed locations instead of the usual practice of going door to door to see if anybody needed help. That's how bad it's gotten. That's how these cockroaches who slither around behind the chief cockroach, Donald Trump, that's how these cockroaches have disrupted normal people going about normal business of providing aid and comfort to people who just were devastated by a hurricane. The statement from FEMA also said, quote, FEMA continues to support communities impacted by Helene and help survivors apply for assistance. For the safety of our dedicated staff and the disaster survivors that we are helping, FEMA has made some operational adjustments, end quote. Operational adjustments, meaning They don't want to be confronted by these gun-toting pigs, these white men slime. You know, I would ask them, why the fuck aren't you guys working? Surely you can go find a goddamn grocery store where you can get a job carrying grocery bags out, you idiots. I get very... You know, I have spent the past 60 years in the South, and I understand. I do. I understand the Southern white mentality. I've come close to understanding, not empathizing with, but understanding the Southern black mentality. But I'll never be able to cross those last 10 yards because I am not a black man. I'm white. Sorta. Predominantly. But I do understand the white Southern male mentality. Oh, motherfuck, do I understand it. Now, the heightening tension that these yahoos are causing has resulted in people who live in these areas, residents harassing federal employees. That's according to a woman who's a Forest Service official who lives in Asheville, North Carolina. Her name is Reva Duncan. She is also a representative with an organization called the Grassroots Wildland Firefighters. Firefighters. She said people have been yelling at federal employees delivering aid or showing up to do repairs. And the people have been screaming at these folks showing up to help. We don't want your help here. And this is directly because of the fire hose of garbage and bullshit and cockroaches and shit that comes out of Trump's mouth. One Forest Service employee, according to this woman who works with the Grassroots Wildland Firefighters, she said one Forest Service employee was pulling into a gas station when someone yelled at him to leave, and the person started screaming, "We don't want the government here." She added, quote, "It's terrible because a lot of these folks who need assistance are refusing it because they believe the stuff people are saying about FEMA and the government. And it's sad because they are probably the ones who need the help the most." End quote. Exactly. This is a part that piles tragedy on top of this fucking madness. And all of it can be traced back to this filthy son of a bitch named Donald Trump and these Christian monsters who use him to destroy the country. There was a text message shared with the Washington Post that they're reporting on. And in that post, a woman said that her child, who's a Forest Service crew member from California, was one of those people who temporarily left the county for his own safety. And earlier Saturday, a resident in this area, according to the Post, came to a supplies distribution center that's now run by Relief Group. The relief group called the Cajun Navy, with the help of a Baptist church organization. This person came to this distribution center and threatened FEMA personnel who also were stationed there in a trailer. That's according to two so-called Cajun Navy volunteers. The Lake Lurie Police and the Rutherford County Sheriff's offices, they all confirmed the incident. So even working somehow in tandem with an obviously renegade Baptist church, I say renegade because most of the Baptists up there and most of the church-going crazy fucking white people have been convinced by their obscene preachers and pastors and snake-handling leaders that the government's here to take your shit. Don't do it. And don't forget to buy your Trump Bible. There's a guy named Sergeant Herbie Martin with the Spindale Police Department. Spindale's 25, 30 miles away from Lake Lurie. And he was in the parking lot of the Spindale Police Department Sunday afternoon, and he also confirmed the incident. And he said, I hope FEMA will come back. You know, because some of these FEMA employees and Homeland Security employees who are there in an emergency situation to try to help people, they're not going to put their lives at risk when all of a sudden they're confronted by a white person, usually grossly overweight, with a beer gut hanging over their ammo belt and fucking beard and hair down to the middle of their goddamn back, and then with these made-up combat uniforms on, carrying a fucking AR-15, and the person made up like this says, hey, you get your ass out of here. What would you do, brother? What would you do, sister? I know what I would do. I would leave. And if I was prevented from leaving, I would resist. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.